I'm muted. I pulled a Nick.
Oh no.
And I think we're entirely muted. All
All of
right.
us?
Yep. That's it. We're starting again.
Okay. Back to the top.
Yep. See, this is why we shouldn't do this or shouldn't mute things. Okay. And we are now live. Well, we're live, but you can hear us. So let's go with that. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Nick. No, wait, Justin.
No, well, I'm the one who accidentally got the button. The rest of the people don't know that Nick does that all the time. Anyway, together we are the leads on game development design here at Codename.
And we are also the founders.
We're going to be.
We got to speed run this. Come on, we got to catch up.
We're the hosts for this episode and every episode.
Unless we're not.
I'm not going to argue with that.
Today's our 14th episode.
Wait, what happened to 13?
Oh, we already switched the title.
I know.
But we skipped 13 because it's unlucky.
Well, I mean, I think that's just silly. So we're going to do episode 13.
Okay, well, we can do that if you want. But if something goes wrong, it's on you.
I feel like something did go wrong.
That's totally on you. And you know why something went wrong? It's because it's episode 13.
Yeah.
It's the unlucky episode. We could not have planned that. We should have.
No, we shouldn't have.
Anyway, we are here to answer your development design questions, specifically about Idle Champions. But if you ask us about other things or some of our other games, we might answer those too.
And of course, if you don't ask any questions, you may have to suffer through one of Justin's one-man reenactments. And this week, it is A Midsummer's Night Dream.
That's right. You know, we got to bring a little class to this stream. Some Shakespeare.
Have you even read A Midsummer's Night's Dream?
I did once in school. I know there's someone named Puck, and there's a bunch of people falling in love, and I can probably just ad-lib the rest.
Yeah, I feel like we should just move on.
Well, that's good. I think we're already starting to get some questions because they were asking questions while we were muted because we're really good at this. Professionals, you know.
We've only started muted this one time. So I think, in 13 episodes, that's not terrible.
As long as we don't have another episode 13, we're all good.
Yeah.
We should stop joking about this kind of stuff.
I got some wood here. Good.
There we go.
All right. Anyway, as always, we have pulled some questions from last week's show that we didn't get to, and we will answer some of those while we are waiting for new questions to come in. And I also have a list of tagged things that got looked at last week, many of them by myself. So we'll start with that, although actually looks like Justin's going to start with a few things that were on his jurisdiction.
That's true. There were a few things that got highlighted from last week. People were asking about where you can get the Champion Ashara skin and the Donar GE that were part of the C-Team promotion a year or two ago. And I looked into it, and both are currently available in wild offers. So they're not currently available for gems or anything like that, just in wild offers. Somebody also asked separately about when we're going to fix the Area 1002 balancing. And that is on our list for the next soft cap increase, which is coming up soon. And finally, someone asked about the Eliwick card odds when you already have a beneficial card, and I'm still looking into that. So I will get an update for that in a future week.
Great. All right, and then moving on to fixes that did go out last week, things that got looked at. The Epic full screen mode, if you click off of it, having it disappear, got fixed. I'm not sure if that particular build is out, but at least the option in the build is set, so that should be corrected. If not in the current build, but in the next build. I updated the info button. When you click it, it should be much more responsive now, and it should also close when you click an item on it or if you click anywhere off it, so that should be more convenient to use. I did add an alphabetical sort to time gates. I added a console portrait mode, which got some positive feedback and some.
I don't know if anyone's seen that. I don't know if anyone's seen that. Oh, wait, it's default.
You can't pin that one on me, but you can try. I added a narrow bench
It's
mode.
episode 13. I can pin everything on you.
Okay. Narrow bench mode, which squeezes all of the champions into the one bench mode view, so you can see them all at once. It doesn't look perfect, especially at lower resolutions, but it does squeeze everyone in there. And it seems like that went over quite well with a lot of people. I limited the buy chests gems slider to the max you can afford. So if you're trying to buy silver or gold chests, when you move that slider, it will stop at the max you can afford, so you don't have to sort of hone in on that. The character alignment has been added to the character hover. I'm told that the Freely's feet not counting properly should be corrected. haven't got confirmation on that, but I'm told it is fixed. And we also fixed an issue where right at midnight, a long-running process that calculated time gate popularity, which was creating a short window where you may or may not have been able to reach the server, especially if you were doing a reset, and that has been corrected. So that would have been players who were asking about leaving the game running overnight and coming back to it saying that they had been disconnected, at the very least in certain circumstances. So we got a big list there. So we can add some more things to it today. Okay, moving on to leftover questions from the previous show. And the first, I got there, 5 are all familiar themed, but we should be able to go through them pretty quickly. So first one here for you, Justin, asked by Neo Surdy, is there a way to get the green mage hand skin?
Yeah, it's a great question, Neo Surdy. Thank you. There is not currently, we looked into this just before the stream, there is not currently a way to get the green hand or the green mage hand familiar skin. So that is something that we could potentially look into, throwing it into the gem store or whatever. I'm trying to remember where exactly that one came from, and I think it was when we were experimenting with Twitch drops. So I don't see any reason that one can't end up in the store for gems or something like that in the future. But I will check with the rest of the team and see if they have some reason why we haven't done that yet.
Okay. Next question is from Snuffles, Snuffles, and he would like to know if there are any more plans for more free familiars. This one's easy.
Yes,
absolutely.
There's always plans for more free familiars. We'll just keep on adding free familiars and until the game goes away someday, 25, 30 years from now.
Until there's no more space in the familiar dialogue for them.
Oh, well, that's already happened.
Well, we're gonna make it have pages. I think it needs pages. All right.
Let me grab a question for you here, Dave, from Iomia. They ask, speaking of familiars, which we are speaking of, when saving formations, why save specific familiars instead of generic, so that it doesment matter if a specific familiar is already active in another group?
They're Eastern and specific. So that there's no good reason for that. It shouldn't do that. Which should actually allow to select a familiar that you don't have, or if it can't find the one that's been specifically selected, it should pick one that it doesn't, or that isn't already assigned. And it doesn't do that, but it should, and it has been on the list to make it work that way for some time, and it is currently on the list, and we will get that part fixed as part of our upcoming bug fixes for offline progress, because that is certainly something that is affecting that.
Absolutely, yes. That is very high on the list to be fixed now that we are spending a bunch of time on that stuff.
Yep. All right. I'm going to back up one to the Optimus SE question.
Yeah.
Is that standard edition or special edition? Optimus Special Edition. Has there been any thoughts to having familiars do other things, like healing or pushing back mobs?
Is that like it's like the Optimus Prime truck, like the semi truck? It's like the special edition. It's got like the nice trim and it's got like AC or something.
That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the let me read the question again. Yes. Okay. Having familiars do other things like healing or pushing back. Yes. That is something that we have been looking at as sort of other familiar jobs. I think the fifth question here is also about other familiar jobs. So yeah, we are looking at other things for familiars to do, because there's a lot of familiars out there, and it's nice to have things for them to all do. So yeah, we're looking into some stuff like that.
You mean we weren't just going to add a fourth formation?
Well, I mean, eventually.
Okay.
Once we get the first 3 working properly.
Next question is from Cassius335, and Cassius would like to know any further progress on putting familiars on auto progress.
Yeah, so somebody asked about this a few episodes ago. We've done like 13 episodes, so at some point in the last 12 episodes, someone asked about putting a familiar on auto progress and essentially just having it so that if auto progress falls off for some reason, if you get defeated, if you get unlucky, say against a boss or something, that it would just go back and automatically move you to the next area again. So that's something that's one of the jobs that we're considering putting there for familiars. So yeah, it is still being considered.
Definitely. All right, we got one last question from last episode, and it is not familiar themed.
What?
I know. I was trying. Anyway, this question here is from Rec Rectarino. I'm not going.
Torino?
Rectarino.
Rectorino. Uh-oh.
It doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
And they would like to know, would you consider adding feats to saved formation, right? Or saved formations. Right now, the player needs to change the feats manually for every change they want to do.
Yes, we would consider adding feats to save formations.
Good answer. Okay.
Whew.
On to the
That was a long one.
Yep. I think we're caught up. We can take a breath.
Okay. Whew. Let's
New
just mute
questions.
ourselves and take a few minutes.
Shame. First question here is from Shank Mujin. And Shank Mujin would like to know, is this the right place to ask why the in-game achievements are not one-for-one Steam achievements? You know what? I saw this question in the previous stream, and so that was probably not the place to ask it, but this is the place to ask it.
Yes, the place to ask it is the one where it's the very first question. So we're definitely going to answer it because it's a pretty quick question to answer. So yeah, I can speak to that, Shank Mugen. So the reason why the in-game achievements are not one for one with the Steam achievements is because the in-game achievements aren't really kind of interesting as Steam achievements. Yeah, that's really just the reason. We also have, there's different sort of platform achievements on each platform. So there's also different achievements on Xbox and PlayStation, because you can get like the Platinum Trophy in PlayStation. And so it's not a platform where we can really add new achievements very often. And then there's some platforms that don't even have platform achievements. So really they're just specific to the platform. And we just didn't want to link them to in-game achievements because it's not all that interesting to have a Steam achievement for like, click 100 times, click 1,000 times, click 10,000 times, click 100,000 times, etc. It just kind of gums up the whole achievement thing. So making them on Steam related to completing the adventures, I think is just more interesting as a Steam achievement kind of thing.
Because there's actually a lot more rigmarole involved in getting the achievements into Steam, and then we have to communicate that back and forth with Steam every time you load the game. And so we thought it made more sense for the Steam achievements to be a little more meaty, and then we got a lot more freedom with the in-game ones because we can just make those whatever internally we want to track. So
we sure can.
Yeah. Okay. We got another question here. Question 2 of all questions from Wandering Bereft. I recognize that name. And Wandering Bereft would like to know, my champions were recently adventuring when a great dragon appeared before them. Introducing themselves as Bahamut, they asked for a favor. Alas, my champions have no favor to give. Bahamut, disappointed, chagrined, took immediately to the skies and disappeared once more. What can you tell me about this mysterious dragon?
Oh, who is Bahamut? Yes.
Somebody let that Bahamut favor out, didn't they?
So yes, the Bahamut favor showed up recently in the favor dialogue. That is a favor that you will be able to earn soon in a new feature coming to Idle Champions, which you may have heard of if you've been in our streams before, called the Trials of Mount Tiamat. Tiamat and Bahamut, not the best friends that there ever were. So as you battle Tiamat's minions, you will earn Bahamut favor, which you will then be able to trade for the regular kind of favor, the permanent campaign favor. So that's what that is. It wasn't actually supposed to leak out yet, but a little bit of leak's not a bad thing.
Could be worse. Definitely could be worse. Okay, next question here is from Garwar, and Garwar would like to know, what are your thoughts on having time gate chests from unique 100 levels of progress be random silver gold chests instead of silver only, now that electrums are here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something we could potentially do in the future. Right now, I'm pretty happy with just the silvers there. I think they make it a bit easier to fill out the sort of commons and uncommons that people are missing, which is something that players request pretty often. So yeah, there's no plans at this time to do that, but it's something that we can hold in our back pocket in case we want to increase the number of gold event chests you can get for champions. So yeah, no plans right now, but maybe someday in the future.
Okay. What do we have next here? We've got a question here from Longtime Lurker. I feel like
First time asker?
I think they've asked questions before. I think this is in all the achievements tab, in the all achievements tab, you can't see all the achievements. Okay,
That's true.
fair enough. For example, the gold or reach level ones only show the next one you can get, though there are others after them. Is there a reason for this? And assuming you're going to follow up, why is that? What is the reason for this?
Yes, there is a reason for it. Next question. No. Yes, so the reason for that is it's similar to stuff we've kind of talked about in earlier episodes, where early on we don't want to necessarily be overwhelming people with a whole boatload of content and features. Like someone who just comes into the game, we don't want to show them like, hey, thank you for playing the game. Here's Trials of Mount Tiamat, and here's 6 other parties, and here's 15 other campaigns, and here's 800 champions. I'm exaggerating by an order of magnitude for all these for some reason. But anyway, so we don't necessarily want them to open up the achievement tab and just see like a page full of collect gold achievements or do clicks achievements or stuff like that. So we group together all the ones that are just kind of growing achievements and only show those as you obtain them or as they are the next one you can obtain. It's a pretty standard thing, I think, in a lot of games that are similar to ours. So it's something we do as well.
Okay. Moving on.
Let's go down here to a question that is not highlighted for me. Yeah,
sure,
we can do this one here. So here's a question from Kinra VIP, who says, I'd really like to be able to purchase a case of just speed potions or just potions of giant strength in the store. Can this happen? And if not, why not?
Well,
so it's not even can this happen? And if why?
It's why not. The assumption
why not?
is why are we not
why,
going to...
Why aren't you doing this for Kinra VIP, Dave?
I mean, I was going to give him the VIP treatment, but... I think the real question around this is sort of how we balance the items that we give out in the different packs and sort of what the values of those items tend to be. Speed potions, especially the larger potions, larger speed potions, and the giant strength potions, again, especially the larger potions, are certainly a higher value item. And so giving out a large pack like that, we might have to, if we were going to do something like that, it would be a sort of an uncomfortable price, I think. I don't know, what do you think about that, Justin?
Yeah, I'd have to think more about it. Potions are one of those things that we like to kind of sprinkle in for like free players as well as for paying players. And I think making them too straightforward to obtain for paying players might make it feel a little bit down the too good for people who put in money and too hard to advance for people who don't, kind of thing, which is a balance that we try and strike and that we try and be pretty careful about. So we'd have to think about that, I think, quite a bit before we would do something like that.
Yeah. Okay, next question, hopping back up to Severand0166, and they would like to know about the upcoming soft cap. How much effort was put into maintaining or improving balance? Wow, okay.
So with soft cap increases, we try and do a little bit of that, or I do, I guess, is the main person who does those. So the thing I look at when we get to a soft cap is I look at champion utilization. And if a champion is used in a lot of formations, I generally won't give them as many upgrades during a soft cap increase. Whereas champions that are a little bit less popular, I'll usually give them a little bit more of a boost. So I think it's generally not a huge amount. Like, we're not talking orders of magnitude of difference, but just a little bit of tweaking to try and make the less used ones a little bit more enticing, and to make the more often used ones just not hugely better after the increase. So that's how I approach that. And that's, yeah, it seems to work all right. Let's see here. Here's a question from Feral Storm 201, who asks, could we get a slow flash option so that familiars will perform their automation, but at a much slower rate?
Yeah, so this is, I looked at this and I kind of wondered if this is tied to, in addition, or to speed potions, because certainly once you've turned up the speed, the familiars kind of twitch out, so that's the, And so I think, so I'm guessing, and I could be wrong here, that this question is about if you set that slower rate, that then when you've got your speed potions running, they're actually moving sort of more at a normal rate instead of that sort of twitching flash that they go. Because, yeah, it certainly looks a little funny. I think it's something that we could consider. Like, there's no reason we couldn't add an option in for something like that. But we'd have to see. I mean, certainly if that's something players are asking for, we'd consider it. But like I say, I would like to see sort of a follow up on the reasoning for that. Like if it is for the really fast when you're running on speed potions, or if it's just in general that they'd like it to be slower. So. Okay, we got another question here. Actually, this is related to one of the ones above about like the Mage Hand Familiar. This one is in regards to the snowball click damage. Evil Emperor Zerg asks, is the snowball click damage version going to be available in the gem store? Because I think it currently was only, we added that last year through was it one of the events?
Was that
like the holiday
Christmas
stuff?
or yeah. I'm getting the feeling that maybe none of the like the click skins or familiar skins are available in the gem store right now.
I could see that easy to overlook.
And that could very easily be just a type of store object we haven't really gotten around to coding up yet. So that is let's highlight that one in our move to next week's questions color, and we will ask about that. Garwar says it was in the Icewind Dale launch announcement meta event. Thank you, Martin, for pasting that in. Perfect. Yeah. So we'll take a look and see where it makes sense to make that available, or if and when.
Yeah, maybe Chris just doesn't want them to ever have it. That's it.
Maybe.
That's it.
Maybe Chris is just like, yeah. Let's see here. There's a question from Rack It Up, who says, any news on the new UI Mars was using on his last few broadcasts?
What UI was
Mars new using? UI? Was he using the console UI? Is that maybe what it was?
I don't know. I mean, it's not as though there are many options for that, so I assume it must have been.
What was he doing?
Well,
I don't.
Someone can let us know the details on that. But if he was using the console UI, that is an option that you can turn. I guess it's labeled as the gamepad UI in the settings. So that's an option that you can turn on if you have a compatible gamepad attached. That's available on the PC versions. And otherwise, there were some tweaks that I pushed out last week that were the slim portraits, or the slim portrait boxes and the console UI portraits. Which are also available in the options, if that is perhaps what you're talking about there. So,
cool.
Oh, I'm hearing that my volume is too low, or someone is saying that. Boost this.
Your volume is too low.
Let's try that.
Now you sound quite a bit louder.
Oh, okay. Well, good enough. We'll go with that for now, unless someone speaks up otherwise. Okay. Next question we have here is from, oh wait, that's one for me. Never mind, we'll just do this one. From General Pentriller. And General Pentriller
where are we going?
would like to know, is it possible to allow more than 50 silver chests at once? It would be nice. It would be a nice quality of life when you have 2,000 plus chests.
Yeah, I mean, I think we get asked about this almost every week. I think right now we're pretty happy with 50 silver chests. We could do more, but it's a bit of a slippery slope. It's like 100 might be nice for you when you have 2,000 chests, but what happens for the people who have 10,000 chests? Then they're going to want, I want 500 at once, and then people with 100,000 chests are going to want 1,000 at once, or
who has 100,000
at once. I don't know. We'll track them down and ban them for hacking, but yeah, it's probably not. It's not a high priority change to do that kind of thing, at least in my mind. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small convenience. I mean, if you have 2,000 chests, it changes it from 40 clicks to 20 clicks. Well, I guess there's more than that many clicks involved. Click. I mean,
it's like click, click, click.
Yeah.
One thing we did in another game in Crusaders was when you opened multiple chests and you had more left over, it had the option to just open another 50, for example. If you open 50, it'd be like open another 50. So that could potentially be something we can look at, just adding a button there after you've seen the results to just add more or open more.
Yeah.
That does reduce the number of clicks, right? So you can just go click, open more, click, open more, click, open more, etc.
Yeah, it's largely not a question of like capability beyond getting too far on the server, doing 1,000 at once, but it is more of a question of sort of what is the right number? Like what's the appropriate number for it to max out at? And sort of how many players have 2,000 chests they need to open all at once, which is certainly something we could check. And when we set it to 100, then there'll be a lot less people who have a 2,000 chests to open, unless they're just saving them because for a rainy day or something.
You never know. It's nice to open some chests when you're feeling blue.
Okay, another question here for you, Justin.
Let's pop back up.
Yep, we got one from Dino J96. And Dino J would like to know, will the new Tiamat mode give the same conversion as events, time gates, or something in between?
So right now it's set to the exact same conversion ratio as time gates, which is lower than events. So you need to collect more. I think it's a smaller percentage per order of magnitude of favor you get. So it'll be very similar, if not exactly equal to what you get from time gates. There's even more questions a little bit further up that we skipped over as well.
Oh, did we? Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll hop back up then to an earlier question from Mike Baldy. Mike Baldy wanted to know 10 minutes ago, is there anything you can share about the legendary item system? Will it be released at the same time as the Trials co-op system?
Sure. Thanks, Mike, for that question. So it will be released at the same time as Trials. That's the current plan, at least. As you need to basically do the Trials thing to get the currency that you use to do legendary item stuff. I'm not sure what we really want to share about it at this point, because we're just kind of finalizing the details on it. But it'll basically be a way to convert your epic items into legendary items. They'll get a new bonus, a new legendary bonus on them, and you'll be able to upgrade that legendary bonus over time as well. So it's a way to boost the items, make them better, add an additional thing that you can kind of build your party around. Building your party around the legendary boosts and trying to get boosts that are beneficial to your party will be part of that system. So, but yes, it will be out in a short time.
Okay. And following that question, we've got another one here from the Real Bunny Beast. And the Real Bunny Beast is asking, are there any plans for excess patron influence? Maybe have the total influence as a small buff to global DPS or gold find or some other Paragon level type thing.
Yeah, so long term, we haven't finalized our long term plans for excessive patron influence, but shorter term, we are planning to add more sets of patron perks. So that'll be something that you'll be able to spend your influence on, and the plan is to probably add more perks than there is currently influence, to try and stay a little bit ahead of more variants coming out. So you will have some choices as to where you want to spend that influence, at least for the time being, until there are more variants and adventures, and at which point you'll just be able to buy everything again, assuming you can do them all, because there are some very hard patron variants out there, and they're just going to get harder.
All right.
Let's see, here's a question from Cassius335, who says, familiars still don't load into the roaming ultimates as part of a background set formation. Can they at least be tweaked to be properly reserved as other party for set formation purposes?
So I thought these were supposed to be loading into the roaming ultimates as part of the background set formation. So if they're not, then this is something that needs to be fixed. Unless I'm forgetting a reason that we changed it not to, but I don't think that's the case. I think those are supposed to be loading in, and they should be. Yeah.
Okay. I can't see any reason why they wouldn't.
Yeah. So we have to confirm that that's happening, and if it is happening, then yeah, that's another thing that needs to be addressed.
So let me cross that one off there. Here's a question from Nadusta, who asks, this is a good question, how often does the game save? I rarely see it pop up, and when I do, it's for a split second, which is annoying when I would need to log off. Could we maybe have a manual save for this situation?
So the game saves at a variety of different times, particularly when it needs to, and when it transitions areas and it's had enough time between that area transition. But then I think there's actually on the console versions, it saves after every area. I know there's a few variations to it, but the game absolutely has to make a save every time you complete a boss area. So every 5 areas, it's going to save. And then there is a timer on the save that if data has changed, if your area has changed, if heroes have leveled up, I think it's set to some high number on the PC version.
I think it's like 15.
Yeah, 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that would only occur if you were idling somewhere. And your familiars were leveling up your heroes, but you were sort of stuck at your wall. It would save sort of infrequently. Certainly when you go to close the game, which is, I was saying here, it was annoying when they need to log off, but when you close the game, it absolutely has to save at that point, unless you wanted to lose the progress from your previous save to then. And so the pop-up shouldn't take very long. And I say it's split for a second. I don't see
it should only pop up for a split second when it saves, because that's essentially just the latency between you and our server. As soon as the save comes back as, yep, good.
One thing we did notice on some clients, I haven't seen it for a little while myself, but I remember there was an issue where it was taking the first attempt when you went to log off, timed out, and it had to retry after 15 seconds, so it would hold you for 15 seconds. But it shouldn't be doing that. So if that is what's happening, I thought we had a solution to that, but anyway.
I don't recall seeing a solution for that. I mean, the one thing I will say is even if you like Alt F4 the game and it hasn't saved for 15 minutes, because it hasn't saved for 15 minutes, when you log back on, it'll give you 15 minutes worth of offline progress.
Promises.
Which I mean, if it hadn't saved for 15 minutes, that generally means you're at your wall and your champions are probably max level or not progressing anymore, and so you're not going to see all that much of a loss. It's the reason we don't necessarily have to save very often, is because we can very easily just get you back to the point that you would have been if it had saved.
I think the biggest issue though around that is if you made a bunch of changes and then closed and it didn't save properly, because often, I know that was an issue up until we made it sure it absolutely did save on close, and that was that you'd set up a formation, you'd set some familiars down, close the game. If it didn't save properly, you'd come back to the previous formation, which of course didn't have those heroes, didn't have the familiars, and that meant that you didn't get the progress that you were hoping for. So anyway,
but I think when you do things like that, I think we flag it to save more frequently.
It's a forced save on log off, right? 100%. Doesn't care if anything's changed. When you hit close, it always saves it. So So the next piece on that was, could we have a manual save for that situation? And the answer is it should always save at that point. Manually saving ahead of time, unfortunately, would be a tricky one to prevent another save from following up, unless absolutely nothing had changed in between that time. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to a question here from Shank Mugen. And Shank Mugen would like to know, would you consider adding the in-game achievements to the Steam achievements in the future? One of the reasons I'm using Steam for it is that I can track achievements. I like to see the achievement list fill up, and every time I get an in-game achievement, I get a little bit sad that I can't see it in the Steam achievements. I would really love it if that was something you could implement.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Shank Mugen. It's probably not something we're going to do, honestly. I mean, I could say, yeah, it's something we might consider, but it's not really, for me at least, I don't think it's something I would consider doing. I think there's just a lot of achievements there in the in-game ones that just don't really make sense to have as a Steam one, for the reasons that we answered, that we talked about before, where there's just a lot of clutter there. There's a lot of achievements about gold and clicking, and for the reason that Dave, that you mentioned as well, where it's a little bit more onerous to set up Steam achievements than it is to set up in-game achievements. So the way that we actually have our Steam achievements set up, it would actually be a little bit of a a little bit of a pain to get other types of achievements to load in there. That's not really the main reason we wouldn't do this. It's really just a design choice for us.
Yeah, I mean, I would be a little bit nervous about how much additional data we have to send back and forth between us and Steam, and that does actually that's something that can cause problems at times. I know one of the questions that was on the list from last week that we didn't address earlier on was a question around allowing the Steam client to load even if we can't connect to Steam to validate the user login. And when that happens, or when we're sending data back and forth to Steam, any delay in Steam services does make it so that you can't log in properly. And so when you load the game initially, we do actually confirm what achievements you have and send additional data for that, as well as confirm purchase information and that sort of thing. And so it just increases the amount of data that has to go back and forth there, and I do think that's a point of failure.
That's actually a really good point as well, is that the way that we communicate your Steam achievements to Steam is from our server to Steam's server, and the way that achievements are actually set up in the game, we don't actually save those on our server. They're just they're recalculated every time you load the game.
They shouldn't be. They really shouldn't be.
It really shouldn't be. It's the way it is. So for that reason, it would actually be a huge pain in the butt to actually be able to calculate all your achievements and save them and send them off to Steam
really
as well.
Fix that, though. That one we should fix at some point. But
it works.
I don't know that it's a pain is like the best answer, but
sometimes it is. It depends what else it's going to break when we're trying to fix something.
Yeah, anyway.
But yeah, that one. Sorry, Shank.
Yeah, I think the sheer number is really where the line's getting drawn on that. But all right. Yeah. Next question is from HighLord65. And HighLord65 would like to know, is it possible to add a filter option to only see unfinished event achievements?
I thought we already there is a filter to only view incomplete achievements. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure there is. And I think you can you can scroll down through that list to the events. And so I think the only thing that this option would do is just hide the unfinished other achievements, which feels unless I'm just completely wrong about that, but I think if you're on all achievements and you're viewing unfinished ones, that you can see the unfinished event ones in that list. You just have to scroll down past the click ones and the other ones. Now, I could be very wrong about that. People in chat are saying I'm very wrong about that, so it's very possible that I'm wrong about that.
We'll have to check it.
Let's check that one. I will check that one and see what's going on there. Because it should be completely yes, that should be possible. If it's not already there, or it's not already half there, then it certainly should be possible. Here's another question from not Kinra VIP. They added a pronunciation here. It's Kinravip. Kinravip.
Kinravip.
Which, yes. So they've got a technical question for us. Whenever I purchase anything, the reloading game token just hangs and I'm forced to close and relaunch the game. Can I do something to fix this, or is it a bug?
So
it sounds like a bug.
It does, but it's not something that we see reported. Hangs at reloading the game token.
What platform are you on? Kinrav? Yep. It would be great to know what platform you're on.
Someone is saying they have the same thing and they're on Epic. Yeah. Oh,
Eggs.
no, you know what? People are like Epic, but Kinra is saying Steam.
Oh.
Huh. I mean, there were issues for the players who are commenting in the chat there that it's Epic. We were aware there were some issues on Epic with the purchasing, but the hanging right after you make a purchase, usually that's when the game contacts the server to confirm the purchase with the server in Steam. It would be confirming with Steam's server to confirm that the purchase has been made, and then it would be crediting the items back to your account. So hanging on that, it's really. I'm not 100% sure what would be causing that, because it's going to,
Yeah, Virio Aspen chat there is saying it happens when the game is on for a long time on Epic. So I wonder if it's trying to like use an Epic like login token that is by that point expired if you've had the game open for a couple of hours.
Right. Again,
it's just failing.
Kinravip is on
Steam. Yeah.
So. Oh wait, what? He says I lied. I'm on Epic too. What? Oh, so it is an Epic issue. Okay.
Epic. Okay. All right, Epic. We see you. We see you there with your
Someone says it hangs
tokens.
on Kong. It's 100% a Kong issue. Okay.
Don't mess with us.
Yeah, so that could be the case.
Yeah, we can.
If players have been reporting that if it's open for a long time, that happens. The next time you go to do one, if you close and open the client beforehand and see if it makes a difference, that would be absolutely useful to know. Because it could very well be that it's checking the login token and failing at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
I do have the next note here was a follow-up just to clarify that the Mars' stream, he was using the slim portraits.
The slim portraits. Put everyone on a diet.
They all fit on the bench.
Yes, they do.
They're not properly socially distanced.
We couldn't make a wider bench, so we just made everyone just go on.
We cut their arms off, the shoulders.
Everyone onto Furman or something like that.
I don't know.
That's a big craze in my in-laws right now.
Oh dear.
Lots of beans.
I don't want to know.
Lots of beans.
I don't want to know.
Salt.
I said I don't want to know.
No, lots of beans.
No. I don't want to be around them.
Very smelly diet.
I knew that's where you were going.
Here's another question from Honda Hero 21, who says, sometimes when I come back from offline, I get a status screen showing areas transited, gems, gold. But sometimes when I make progress offline, I don't get a status screen. I go right to the action. Why the difference?
So that is definitely a bug. And I think that would occur when if the game thinks you haven't made any progress, it doesn't have a timestamp when it loads, or it thinks that you early outed of the offline progress for some reason almost immediately, and that would be if there were no champions loaded, if there were no not loaded, but no champions in the formation on the area. And I know up until recently, because I've been making changes in that system, there was actually a case where if you were on Area 1 and you had only one champion place. I know there was some case that was trying to catch like a long load. I know I was talking to Peter about it. It was a case that had been, if you had started the adventure and it had taken a while to load, like more than the 30 seconds that we have as like the window before it even tries to do offline progress, you would load and then it would try to do offline progress on your first entry to an adventure. And so that was the heuristic for checking that was badly set up. But that should be changed as of last week on Steam, and a little later than that on Epic. But so that's one reason. The other possibility would be that if the request timed out during the initial update, so if it processed it and then it was trying to load and then it timed out, it could have cleared on the servers thinking that you had you'd already completed your offline progress and then load into the game as if you had basically closed the game and then reopened it. And you'd be able to tell that had happened because you'd look at it, you'd actually have made a bunch of progress and you'd have additional gold. Although it might be tricky to figure that out if you turned it off 8 hours ago and hadn't remembered where you were or written it down, because I know you come back, this is about where I was, it's fine. So it's certainly a bug. You shouldn't arrive and go right into the action, especially if you've been away for more than 10 minutes. It should definitely have a thing pop up, even if it is for a short period of time. So definitely something that either has been adjusted and fixed in the build that went out over the last week and a half, or it could be that communication issue, which is something we'll have to figure out a better solution for.
Do you want to pop down to question 33? I'm very excited to answer this one.
All right, question 33 from RS Wild Eye. The UI freezes out the user when it has the pop-up updating challenge, yet it often fails to finish that update for 10 seconds to even minutes at a time, leaving the user helpless to watch things on screen, unable to control anything. Similar, but usually less bad every day at midnight. Ooh, when presumably server is restarted or server code is restarted or something. Not quite that, but yes, on both Epic and on Steam.
Yes. So I wanted to answer this one because we actually, yesterday, were looking into the midnight thing. And I think we've actually, I don't know, I'm going to find some wood here to knock on, but I think we've actually fixed the midnight issues that players were having. And those were occurring because, well, every day at midnight, some stuff kind of switches over, like the champions in the champion chest available in the store, or the champion chests available in the store. It also, and one thing it actually does at that time as well, is it recalculates the popular champions for the purpose of the filtering on time gates. And it turns out that was going a little bit slow. It was unoptimized. And so we did a little bit of investigation yesterday and fixed that particular slowdown, which could potentially cause quite a bit of slowdown. And so hopefully this freeze at midnight at least isn't happening anymore. As for the updating challenge one, that's a tough one. That's generally happening because everyone who's logged in is attempting to update their challenges at roughly the same time. And updating the challenges isn't a super quick process. So that is something there's probably still some optimization to be done there. But we will continue to look at that. And I think it's gotten better. Like we see, we've got a big server monitor up on the screen here, or on the wall here in the office, and we kind of can glance at it. And there's definitely some bumpiness around Monday morning, or around Monday at noon, server time. But I think it's gotten quite a bit better recently. So we did a few optimizations there. So we will continue to optimize that and try and get rid of that freeze up. But I wanted to answer this one specifically because the midnight thing is something that I think we have solved.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. All right, back up through the questions. Here we go. Here's a question from Susanna260, who asks, could there be a toggle on-off for the upgrade unlocked boxes? They cover a lot of the screen once speed champions / pots get involved. So those are the ones that pop up out of the champions when you unlock an upgrade. And I think that's it's not a bad idea. I mean,
yeah,
they're not super useful when you've got speed potions going.
Yeah, I mean, they're broadly just an indication that an upgrade has been unlocked, but yeah, they certainly can make quite a mess of dialogues there, especially early on. And you set those up and then they go and then things sort of calm down shortly thereafter. But yeah, it's certainly something that we could consider.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being something that you can toggle in the settings. That would obviously be defaulted to the current behavior, but would be able to be turned on for people who just don't want that.
Fair enough. Next question is from Landy Rev, and Landy Rev would like to know, why does there have to be a number for max open chests? Just let the user slide to their max.
So this is related to the freezing out the server and stuff. Opening chests isn't a completely free activity. There's a fair amount of logic behind it, and so we limit that so that the server has a little bit of time to breathe between chest openings.
Yeah, opening 1,000 chests at a time could very well cause a noticeable hiccup for a couple of seconds. So
yes, I know that we like the aforementioned server sets. We have our other game, Crusaders. I know there have been times when we've looked up at it and seen the server load spike appreciably, and then go back down after a couple of minutes. And when we go look through the logs, it's because someone was scripting a whole bunch of chest opens all in a row. With the maximum number of chest openings. So it is something we try and slow down on purpose so that it doesn't affect other players, basically. So we want to make sure everyone has a good time.
Okay. Here's an easy one for you. This is from Howat1, and Howat would like to know, will legendary gear be random or selected?
Well, I mean, there's a couple different ways to, I guess, interpret that question.
Well, I guess that's fair.
You will be able to select which gear you want to make convert from epic into legendary, and then the bonuses on them will be somewhat randomized. There will be a set of bonuses available for each champion, and you'll get a random one when you create a legendary gear or a legendary piece of gear, and you can re-roll that if you'd like for a small amount of currency. So yes and no, depending on how the question is interpreted.
Yes.
And there'll be more details on the legendary stuff as we get closer to release of that as well.
I'm sure that question was around like the assignment of shiny potions and that sort of thing, right? So yeah.
Yes, you don't have to. You don't just say make a gear legendary and then it makes all of your Delina gear legendary. Though that's not a bad idea. That's a good system.
You're a monster. Yeah, there was one actually here, a question in between that I was going to address. That I see this because we've seen this a few times, and it's around the accessibility for colorblind on the items on the cards.
Oh yes, sure.
And I think the answer on that one is actually that's something that we've talked about doing, and it just hasn't ended up being on the top of the priority list. But adding a symbol on the gear to indicate the difference in rarity as well as just the color is something that I think we should probably do. So
yeah, that was a question from Frosty Driggy. Dry. Maybe it was better that we didn't try to pronounce that name.
I was thinking. Okay.
Yes, thank you for that question as well.
Next question here is from Garwar.
Who's that?
No idea. With more tiers of patron perks coming, can we get a save system for perk setup, like with Modron cores, so we can easily swap between local global focus for different situations instead of having to reset and reapply?
Yeah, I mean that's something that we can think about. It's probably not going to be super high up the priority list because that sort of micro gaming isn't something we super like to encourage. You know, it's similar it's similar to in Crusaders. Part of the meta at some points is to just completely remove or disenchant all your legendary gear and move it to other Crusaders depending on who you need, which is a pretty onerous thing to do. And so players were asking for saves for that as well, where we'd really rather not have you be doing that between questions or between quests or between objectives. So yeah, it's probably something we could do. It's just not super high up the priority list there.
Yeah. Okay, so I notice we are running close to the end of our time. So we've got a few questions here that I think we can get through quickly. Starting with 31, if you want to ask that one.
Yeah, I just want to quickly, Ojit, or OG17 is asking why patron perks have a trivial respec cost while blessings have a cost. And the simple answer for that is patron influence is a one-time only thing. You can't get more patron influence once you've done all of the variants for the patron. So if it had a cost, you could potentially screw yourself over, get yourself into a position where you can't actually get all the perks, even though there's enough influence in the game to get them. You will have spent some on your respecs and won't be able to get any more. So that's the reason.
Okay.
Okay, which question did you want me to answer?
You know what? I'm just going to read through this and get a quick answer on it.
Okay, sure.
And that is Dunkfurin is asking about a windowed full screen mode. They're saying if there is one, I can't find it. I sit on multiple screens and sometimes I need to move the game, but want to have it at full screen. So the answer to that one is the mode for the full screen is windowed full screen, so it shouldn't be changing your resolution. But if you do need to move the window, the easiest thing to do is, and unfortunately there's no way to just grab it and move it in full screen mode, but would be to Alt-Enter, which will pull it back into a windowed mode, drag it over, Alt-Enter again, get it full screen again. That is the easiest solution I have for that. The next question after this, which I'm going to burn through that one, is if I put a familiar on an alt and then end the adventure, is the familiar coming back on that alt as soon as it's unlocked, working as intended? This is a question from Jayathynth. The answer to that, Jayathynth, is if you have a Modron, and if you saved that to the formation, then yes, that is the expected behavior. If you don't have a Modron on there and it isn't saved to the formation, then no, that is not the expected behavior. So it depends on how that is set up. Yeah, and then the next question, which is related to the save frequency, I just get that.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
For WebGL is that WebGL saves at the same frequency as the Steam client. When you go to quit, it also, the web browser has an on browsing away event, which it checks. And when it does that, it then also saves before closing the tab or browsing to another URL. Yeah.
Great. And Warpig53, you have arrived just in time for the end of the stream. So congratulations.
Okay. Yeah, we've got 2 more questions here. I'm just going to ask them for you, Justin, and that is...
okay. Oh, wow. Go.
We got 3 minutes.
Sure.
A little bit. Maskiel asks, how much time do we have to wait on Epic to catch up with Steam updates?
Yeah, I mean, that's thank you for the question, Maskiel. It should be pretty quick. Steam sometimes gets updates ahead of time because we just want to make sure that things are working before we spend quite a bit of time trying to get it out on the other 7 or 8 platforms. But Epic is usually like second after Steam, so it shouldn't be more than well, I think we might have been a couple of days at times, but it should go pretty quick.
Yeah. And we got 3 minutes. We're good. Last question is from Valerie's. Valerie asks... Valer Z. You're right.
Z.
Can you make all your dialogues movable like the chat window is? Would love to be able to see Omen's CO buff while watching the actual action. The dialogue mostly covers in its centered state. You gonna answer that?
That sounds... I don't know. I mean, that sounds more like more like an implementation question to me. For what do you think about that? Being able to move all the dialogues.
I think actually all the dialogues have the ability to be moved. It's just a setting we don't turn on most of them. I think it gets a little tricky with the larger dialogues because you can't really move them to much location without having them go off the screen. And in that regard, that can get a little bit tricky. Especially if you hide the close button, which would not be ideal. Yeah, for most of the larger dialogues, it doesn't make too much sense for that. And obviously, if you're at a larger resolution, you may have a little more leeway, but it's just not something as a feature that we prioritize. So, I mean, if we see a lot of players asking for it, we might think about it, but it's probably not top of the list. Okay, and that is definitely all the time we have questions for. So,
my gosh, it is. Yeah, if we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry. You will have another opportunity. We will be live again at this same time next week. And because it won't be episode 13, we won't be muted at the beginning of the stream. But before we sign off, we would like to thank some people, including our tireless mods. Today, it was Martin. Thanks, Martin.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, and enjoying the game. Without you, none of us here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
It's absolutely true. All right. We are out. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
All right, are we going to mute ourselves now?
That would be sensible.
Let's do that.